geek out with me for just a minute here. In 1967, a book called The Pragmatics of Human Communication came out. And in this book, the three researchers who authored it laid out some essential axioms or truths in the field of human communication. Well, as we well know, human communication has changed a lot. I mean, we're still humans. We have psychological and behavioral needs and actions, but the channels through which we communicate differ greatly from, well, 1967 when this book was published. So I think it's time for a refresh. So I present to you, instead of the pragmatics of human communication, I present to you the pragmatics of generative AI. The first axiom or essential truth when it comes to generative AI is AI outputs are only as good as human inputs. That's right, these machines aren't producing on their own without any human intervention. The only way you can achieve a great output with any form of generative AI is to make sure that your human inputs, that your data are in meaningful and strategic order. If you're going about integrating AI into any aspect of your business and you haven't thought of the through line from the data to the finished message or product, you're missing the mark. So again, axiom number one, AI outputs are only as good as human inputs. The second axiom I present to you is that both the order of and the fluidity of your data will allow for faster advancement. Sure, anyone now can go to ChatGPT and generate different text, different formulas, different equations, different programming code, different images, etc. But the people who are going to truly leverage the power of generative AI to create meaningful communication are going to have their data not only in order strategically, but they're going to have their data fluid, meaning that the data can flow from one area of their business to another, from one part of their customer experience to another. This data ordering and data fluidity is what's really going to help you advance faster than others. Enhancing the exchanges between businesses and customers strengthens the relationships. That's the third axiom, and on its surface you may be thinking, oh goodness, well that seems obvious, but it's not always obvious in practice and it's not always easy to execute. When you can create stronger, more meaningful, more personalized exchanges between businesses and customers, the relationships can grow faster. It's being able to personalize that communication, and I'm not just talking about, hello, insert first name. It's personalizing in a way that is so specific and so useful to how a particular customer is using your product, the aspects of the product they're using, the elements of the product, and even maybe what they're not using and some gaps that your product can fill in for them. When you combine and enhance the exchanges, making them more meaningful between two parties, you're going to see that relationship grow a lot faster. And with generative AI, companies who are using not only the data to accomplish this, but using generative AI and synthetic media and other tools to achieve these types of communication are getting ahead faster. Axiom 4 is about guardrails or parameters. And the axiom is to build guardrails around what is going to be the most effective for output, not around fear. When it comes to generative AI, there is a lot that is unknown, definitely to the average user and absolutely to the general public at large. But those of us who are working in the field and those of you who are looking to import generative AI into use cases into your business need to know that approaching how you're developing the guardrails and parameters for the use of AI should be around the function and the output that you desire, not around fears that exist for it. For example, if you want to build an interactive chatbot, a generative AI agent on your website, but you only want it to respond in certain ways or to certain queries, you can put guardrails around it so it does that. But I challenge you to look at those guardrails instead of, oh, I'm afraid it will say X. Think instead of what we want the customer to experience because we have this agent in place, what we want the user to have as an exchange because we have this technology in place. And then build your guardrails around that. If you know that in your company you have a set of, let's just say, 10 problems that can be pretty easily solved and another 5 common problems that need some human intervention, build the guardrails around how you can effectively solve those 10 problems and then communicate to those other 5, noting that other intervention is needed. Don't build it around, well, if they ask about A, but not about B, but then about C, we shouldn't be able to answer that, and so we're not letting it answer anything that has to do with A because A has part to do with C. I mean, that just sounds convoluted, and it was, but that's the fear-based approach. When you build guardrails around the output you desire and not around fear, you're going to be more productive and create better experiences for those in your audience. So those who are using generative AI, I urge you to focus on the positive uses of this technology. Focus on the positive outputs, the positive messages, the positives in productivity and process that can be achieved. Because by focusing on the technology in that way, I am not telling you to ignore the potential downside, not at all. But if we focus on the positive potential outcomes, we are going to be more motivated to innovate faster. And only through that innovation are our positive uses going to be able to keep up with and also negate a lot of the nefarious ones. So everybody, keep innovating, keep discovering, and keep finding ways that we can leverage generative AI and other tools to create more humanized experiences for our audiences. The 5 pragmatics of generative AI for communication. Number 1, your AI outputs are only as good as your human inputs. Number 2, both the order of your data and the fluidity of your data throughout your business are going to allow for faster advancement. Number 3, enhancing the exchanges that take place between businesses and customers strengthens relationships. Number 4, generate guardrails around what will build and generate the most effective outputs, not around fear. Number 5, the positive uses of generative AI must outweigh the nefarious uses.